A labyrinth of shadows, a creature of myth, and a hero's defining trial. This is the story of the Minotaur, part man, part bull, and wholly tragic. Crete, the largest island in Greece, home to the great palace at Knossos, serves as a crossroads of civilizations, lush landscapes, imposing mountains, and epic views of the sea. Minos sits under the tree in the courtyard of the palace, contemplating his surroundings and seeking to secure his place as the rightful ruler of Crete. Minos knows the only way to succeed is with the favour of the gods. It's the surest sign of legitimacy, so he turns to Poseidon, god of the sea, for help. He prays for a sign, a divine gift that would demonstrate his chosen status as king. Poseidon answers Minos' prayer by whipping up the waves until they glisten white with foam, and out charges a breathtakingly beautiful bull, its coat gleaming like polished ivory. The creature, known as the Cretan bull, was more than just an animal. It was a symbol of Poseidon's power and favour. The god's expectation was clear. Minos was to sacrifice the bull as an offering of gratitude and respect. But when Minos sees the bull, he's overcome with admiration. Its perfection and majesty captivate him, and he decides to keep it alive. Perhaps he believes that such a magnificent creature would enhance his royal herds, or maybe he fears losing something so extraordinary. Whatever his reasoning, he devises a plan to deceive the god. Minos sacrifices a lesser bull from his herd instead, assuming that Poseidon will accept this substitution. But gods are not so easily fooled. Poseidon's rage is swift and transformative, setting the stage for a tragedy to come. And Minos' decision to keep the bull reveals a critical flaw in his character: arrogance, born of power. By prioritising his desires over his duty to honour Poseidon, he commits an act of hubris, the ancient Greek term for excessive pride or defiance against the gods. Minos might have believed his cunning would outwit Poseidon. Perhaps he underestimated the god's wrath. Or maybe he just didn't see the big deal about which bulls should be sacrificed. But the punishment for hubris is clear. To disrespect the god's will is to invite disaster, not just for oneself, but for everyone connected to you. Poseidon, as you can imagine, is insulted by Minos' deceit, and unleashes a punishment as creative as it is cruel. He doesn't strike Minos directly, but instead curses the queen, Pasiphae. Using his divine powers, Poseidon causes her to develop an unnatural and uncontrollable desire for the very bull that Minos refused to sacrifice. By targeting the queen, Poseidon ensures that Minos' betrayal will not remain hidden, but instead grow into a monstrous legacy. Over the days and weeks to come, Queen Pasiphae falls into a state of overwhelming desire for the bull, a torment both physical and psychological. She's trapped by a love that defies nature, her body and mind compelled by the god's punishment. Pasiphae's plight becomes a scandal in the palace of Knossos, and her desperation grows as she searches for a way to satisfy the impossible yearning. In her despair, Pasiphae turns to Daedalus, the renowned inventor and craftsman who was serving King Minos at the time. Daedalus was known for his unmatched ingenuity and capable of creating mechanical marvels that blurred the lines between art and magic. Though reluctant, he eventually is either persuaded by the queen's pleas or coerced by her authority into devising a solution for her predicament. He constructs a hollow wooden cow, carefully crafted and covered in hide to mimic the appearance and texture of a real one. Pasiphae climbs into the wooden structure and is placed into the pasture where the bull grazes. Poseidon's curse ensures the bull is deceived, and it mates with the disguised queen. From Pasiphae's cursed union with the bull, a creature unlike any other is born. She names her son Asterion, after the foster father of her husband, but we know this part man, part bull hybrid as the Minotaur. With the body of a man, muscular and imposing, but the head of a bull, complete with sharp horns and a powerful jaw, the creature's nature reflects its unnatural origins. It's a being of rage and hunger, dangerous to anyone near it. Unable to survive on a regular diet, the Minotaur grows to develop a horrifying need for human flesh. King Minos, ashamed of the monstrous outcome of his actions, yet unwilling to destroy the creature, decides to hide it. He turns to Daedalus, the same inventor who aided Pasiphae to solve this new problem. And Daedalus's solution is to construct a labyrinth beneath the palace at Knossos, a sprawling maze-like structure designed to be inescapable, as well as confounding to anyone who dared to enter. The Minotaur is then confined within its dark, winding corridors, where it could do no harm to the people of Crete. It was a case of out of sight, out of mind. But despite his isolation, the Minotaur's existence cannot remain hidden forever. Over the years, the Minotaur's existence became more than a secret shame for Crete. It became the symbol of Minos's power and the despair of Athens. After his son dies in Athens, under suspicious circumstances, King Minos waged a war on the city. The gods sided with him, and Athens was forced to submit to a cruel punishment every 9 years. The city was required to send 7 young men and 7 young women to Crete, and these youths would be cast into the labyrinth as a sacrifice, and left to wander until they were inevitably devoured by the Minotaur. This tribute became a cycle of grief and terror for Athens, and the city grew increasingly resentful of the arrangement. But the labyrinth was inescapable, and the Minotaur was undefeatable, until one year a hero arose to challenge both. Theseus, the son of King Aegeus of Athens, stepped forward to end the suffering. Brave and determined, he volunteered to be part of the tribute, but his intention was not to die. He promises his father that he would slay the Minotaur and return victorious. As a sign of success, he vowed to hoist white sails on his ship upon his return, replacing the black sails that traditionally adorned boats returning from Crete to signify the mourning of the lost young men and women. When Theseus arrived in Crete, his reputation as a heroic figure preceded him. Among those who took notice was Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos and Queen Pasiphae. As the princess watched Theseus prepare for his journey into the labyrinth, she became enamoured with him. Ariadne decided to help him, defying her father and the deadly tradition of the Athenian Tribute. Ariadne approached Daedalus, seeking advice on how Theseus might navigate the endless twists and turns of the labyrinth, and what he provided her was simple yet ingenious: a ball of thread. Ariadne in turn passed this thread to Theseus, with instructions to tie one end to the entrance of the labyrinth and unravel it as he ventured deeper. With this, he would be able to find his way back after encountering the Minotaur. So in he ventured, deep into the shadowy passages of the labyrinth, with the thread Ariadne provided trailing behind him as a lifeline. The maze was designed to be confounding, even to the sharpest minds, and it seemed to twist endlessly. And it was at the heart of the labyrinth that Theseus finally encountered the Minotaur. The creature loomed before him, a fearsome fusion of man and beast, its horns glinting in the dim light. But Theseus, armed with a sword, stood his ground. The battle that followed was fierce and primal. Theseus relied on both his strength and his cunning, evading the Minotaur's powerful strikes and searching for an opening. Hours passed, and he ducked in and out of passageways, sometimes the aggressor and sometimes on the defence, biding his time and using the creature's size and rage against it. In the climactic moment, Theseus delivered a decisive blow, plunging his sword deep into the Minotaur's chest. The beast lets out a cry before collapsing, its tragic and monstrous existence brought to an end. With the Minotaur slain, Theseus faced the next challenge: escaping the labyrinth. And thanks to the thread given to him by Ariadne, he's able to retrace his steps and find his way back to the entrance. As he emerges into the light of day, he's greeted by the other Athenian tributes, who are overjoyed by his success. They set sail back to Athens, leaving behind the nightmare of the labyrinth. But fate would interfere, and Ariadne's future would soon take a turn. On the journey back to Athens, Theseus and his companions stopped at the island of Naxos. Some say he abandoned Ariadne, and some say she was inadvertently left behind. But whether she was left on purpose or not, she was eventually found by the god Dionysus, who rescues her from her heartbreak, falls in love with her, and makes her his bride. Theseus and the surviving Athenian youths celebrated on their journey back to Athens, but their triumph was marred by a tragic oversight. And as the black-sailed ship appeared on the horizon, Aegeus stood on the cliffs and watched, believing his son had failed. In his despair, he threw himself into the sea, which was later named in his honour. And when Theseus and his crew reached shore, their tragic mistake was realised, and the joyous reunion was tainted by the king's death. Even in victory, the gods and fate imposed harsh and unintended consequences. Though often remembered as a terrifying beast, the Minotaur's story carries a deep layer of tragedy. Born from a curse, I think the creature was as much a victim of divine and human folly as it was a symbol of danger. Its existence was not a choice, but the inevitable result of Minos' hubris and Poseidon's wrath, abandoned at birth by those who should have cared for him. Pasiphae, though his mother, could not raise or love a creature that reminded her of her curse. And Minos, his stepfather, only saw a monster to be hidden away. The decision to imprison the Minotaur in the labyrinth isolated him completely, denying him any semblance of a normal life. The Minotaur became a monster through necessity. Confined to the labyrinth with no natural food source, he turned to consuming human flesh out of desperation. So anyway, I believe the Minotaur's monstrous behaviour was not inherent, but rather a product of its circumstances. A grim reminder of how neglect and cruelty can shape even the most innocent beings into something feared. What do you think?